Thank you very much for joining in today. So today is our first webinar. In this webinar, we're going to talk about high-level QuantLayer, like what we have built, why we have built, and what are the different functionalities that we have incorporated in QuantLayer platform. So I will start first with my introductions. So my name is Sayed Zishan Akhtabari. I'm founder at BData. So I started working on this solution 4 or 5 years ago when we started building the base layer of it, which was the identity and authentication based on the immutable identities. So we filed our patent. That patent got approved. We prepared our base layer for the identity. And then after that, we worked on creating the different features on the top of it based on whatever the information we collected. So today I will walk you through like what we have built and why we have built this platform. Today I have with me here Afraz and Ammar. Afraz is our product director. Ammar is our product engineer. They have been working, tirelessly with me to build this solution. And I appreciate all the other team members who have been participating in our journey. Um, so let me share my screen quickly and I will walk you through our deck and I will talk about like what we have built and why we have built. All right. So this is uh, so the product name is QuantLayer. So BData is the company that owns that product. And I really appreciate all our investors and partners who have been participating with us to build a solution. This is essentially, you can call it something that we have built in Canada to, grow for the cybersecurity infrastructure within the Canadian economy. It's a sovereign cybersecurity solution where all the major parts of it has been basically built to provide the security for the critical infrastructure. And the reason for us to build this is basically if we look into the cybersecurity stack, there are like tons of cybersecurity related devices, which are like could be in OT and IoT infrastructure or could be in the IT infrastructure. Those devices are crossing over 75 billion based on one of the studies published by 2030. And the rise of the AI, as you know, that is going to rise a lot of digital transformation in industrial sector, which is going to basically increase the number of devices even more at the higher pace. So just for like, what are the basics of the cybersecurity, why the cyber attacks happen, and what is the major cause of the cyber attack? Based on a lot of studies, you will find even on the IBM studies, you will see that the identity theft or getting the kind of like access to your private keys are basically the one of the biggest risk in cyber space. So to cater that, we come up with a unique solution where basically we, instead of using the private keys stored on the devices, we create the immutable identities of this device, which will basically help us to kind of like recognize the device over the internet or even in the private network. So that's basically the unique immutable identity that help us to identify the device, identify what is the risk in that device, where that device belongs to, who are the users on that device, what are the different logs on device, what are the risk score of that device. So all of that is linked to the immutable identity. Currently, if you look into the market, there are like tons of solution available in the market, but none of the solution is like a comprehensive and complete solution. Every solution is kind of like a one separate stack. If you look into the IAM solution, they're like just do the identity, but the companies use that identity solution combining with the other, the analytics or the log monitoring solution to get the logs of the system. But the problem with that is it brings a lot of gaps in the technology in your cybersecurity stack, which basically enable hackers or the bad actors to get into your system. So for example, if we are talking about the OT visibility, there are tons of devices which are the legacy devices and very difficult to connect with the network because these devices doesn't have the bandwidth or the technology which can, support existing or the latest technology to create the identities. For example, Okta and some other solution, they don't work on the legacy devices. So for us, it was a big challenge to make sure that bringing those billions of devices into the stack so that our customers can get the logs of those devices and can monitor and make sure those devices are secure. Another risk is these devices that we see in the market, they are mostly protected by the user ID of the user and the password. But in the new digital era where the devices are going to be like self-governed or governed by the AI agents or governed by the autonomous protocols, these devices are basically required to be, identified by itself by their own identities. And there is none solution in the market who can provide this kind of the machine-based immutable identity, which can basically help to identify these solutions. So these are the key challenges that I see in the market. Rest, there are like tons of advancement that happening in the market to use the AI agent in the industrial sector. But that's something for the advanced customers who are basically, up to the mark for their or have the certain level of the cybersecurity programs implemented in their infrastructure. So for those kind of the customer, we have since we have the immutable identity driven by the device hardware and the device schema, we are basically enabling the customers to have managed their AI agents on those devices. They can have the multiple different AI agents running for the different purposes, and they can basically log those AI agents events. They can basically monitor and manage their roles on those particular devices. What is our vision? Our vision is very clear. We want to build a multi-layer, a unified zero trust platform where identity is the base layer, and then the rest of the things are built on the top of it to provide you the value and protection and that you need for your infrastructure. So and our base layers start with the users, devices, or AI agents that you have deployed on your, the infrastructure. So what we do, we basically first create the immutable identities of those devices, and then we feed all the data that we collect from the device into our AI engine. So the AI engine responsibility is basically to look into the data and make sense out of that data and basically ensure that all the aspect of that device are basically in compliance with the zero trust policies as well as the cybersecurity standards. So there are multiple different standards based on the industry that we support, and customer can use our AI agent to configure their standards, the controls, what they're looking for. And it's basically going to help them to have a single stack, start from the immutable identity, identifying the devices, creating the entire directory of those devices, what devices are connected, what is their operating system, what is their firmware, all kind of those details that we can get out of that device, and basically help them to understand where the risk is actually, which are the most kind of like most vulnerable devices, which are the most vulnerable zones in their infrastructure. Um, So next is basically what is the platform capabilities and what are the things that we can provide right now with our platform, what are already in the market, what we are working, is basically identity, which is basically, as I mentioned, unified human machine-based AI immutable identities that you can create for the different devices, different application AI agents. You can create the identity for the different aspect of those devices. Then after that, when we monitor or when we feed the data and the entire log to the device, it creates the device trust. That means that we enable customers to monitor the device postures, integrity, and the provenance scoring. So our scoring is based on what type of the device is, what is the risk level, what are the different vulnerabilities in that device, whether the vulnerability is the base layer vulnerability or it's based on some extended capabilities or extended gaps that we have in that infrastructure. Continuous authentication is one of the key requirement for the customers, where basically they want to make sure that device is all the time authenticated, not just at the time of the handshake. So what we do, we basically enable customers to continue authenticate the device without disrupting the operation. That means that they can have a separate layer where they can validate the device anytime they want. They can schedule daily, weekly, monthly, or hourly base. They can decide the frequency, and based on that, they can continuously verify the device. Zero trust is something that's a very important for customers in defense and in finance and even in OT environment, where basically they want to make sure that nothing comes in the system with the pre decided or pre-validated privileges. So everything has to be like decided and authenticated at the time of the entry, and it should be able to continuously validate it. So the privileges can be maintained through our zero trust policies. You can create the policies, you can assign the different level of the policies, configurations or the controls. You can assign which user should have the access to which folder. You can go to very deep down or granular levels. Microsegmentation is based on the identities based on your overall infrastructure. If you want to create the different segments of the devices, different zones of the devices, you can use our platform to create those zones, and you can assign the policies for those particular zones. So policies can be different for each zone. It can be different within the zone. So those are the things that you can do in our platform. Currently, if you look into, these are the multiple different solutions available in the market, which basically provide all of these features. But our AI model has given us the accessibility to create these features out of the logs that we collect. For example, remote secure access. Currently, it's kind of like you need to, if you want the console access to, all the devices that you have, it's very difficult to access right now in the market. You have a lot of solution, but they always give you like kind of a lot of gaps in the security, considering that whenever you are creating the secure channel, always there is a certificate that's in the move, which is basically creating a lot of vulnerabilities. So in our solution, it's a continuously validated. Every command that you send from the console to the drive to the device is basically encrypted and end-to-end authenticated to make sure that it's going to the right device and the device is continuously being authenticated and validated. So threat detection is something that's the magic out of our AI model, which is basically correlate all the data that we collect, and based on that we monitor with the third-party databases to inspect if there is anything that's been that's been out there in the dark web or other places, which we need to, figure it out if that's exists in our environment or not. So threat detection is a completely separate solution or the model, which we can give demo in some other time. Asset discovery is basically something that's been demand from a lot of customers. They have a lot of devices on their network. It's very difficult for them to identify that which device is connected to what. So they can use our asset discovery feature, which basically run into their network and provide the overall understanding, like how many devices are connected and devices are connected to what networks. So it's give you the overall mapping of your overall your network. Policy engine is something that's part of our zero trust policies. You can create your own customized policies based on your own cybersecurity infrastructure posture management, and you can enforce those policies. You can select the devices, you can select the users on those devices, and you can assign the policies to those devices. So whenever those users are basically logging into the system, those policies will be implemented. For example, if you want to ensure the secure boot on some of your IoT devices or even some of your IT devices, you can directly pick the device from the platform, and you can, with the one click, you can basically implement this secure boot on the device. That's mean that when you implement that secure boot, and when the when the user reboot the system, you will be able to see that secure boot is already implemented. Compliance, as I mentioned, that you can create your own compliance controls. We have already provided some out of the box compliances based on what is most demanded in the market. For example, IC 62443, NIST. And these are the major, the standards that we provide out of the box. But you can always request us for any customized compliance requirement. AI analytics is something that's we're really proud of, building the dashboard, in the sense that these dashboard are not your typical dashboard. These are mainly designed for the CISO and CIOs. So that's mean it's basically provide you the KPIs that for the CIOs and CISOs. So you can basically request us any customization you need on our dashboard, and we can for sure customize it based on your KPIs. Security orchestration, as I mentioned, that all of this is basically combined together and managed in a very organized way. It's a very thoughtful solution which can help you to, maintain your overall security posture and provide you the ability to understand the risk and the vulnerabilities that you have in our environment using the most advanced AI models that we use. So this is our AI decision engine. So this is basically is going to get the telemetry out of your devices, and it's going to correlate based on the patterns that we identify. Then it's going to behavior and contextual risks that is going to decide, and after that is going to basically provide you the the awareness of AI reasoning, that why this is happening, what you need to do, and it will create the automated response for you. Is going to create something that you can basically look into based on the the database that we have, that what could be the risk on your system. It can automatically quarantine the device, it can isolate the device from the network, and it will give you the kind of like guidance what you're supposed to do. Continuous validation is something that once you validate that this risk is eliminated or controlled or managed, after that you can basically put the device back onto the authentication network, and it will be basically continuously working with our system. So this is basically built for companies to identify the risk, quarantine the device, and then after that, once the risk is managed, you can put the device back, and you can have that device continuously with your network working. So this is the difference between what we have built and what you see in the market, and why it's so different, why it's so unique, and why it's something that you need to consider and validate for your requirements. So currently, as I mentioned, identity is a solution considered as a separate or working in the silos where basically identity just provides you the API call and tells you that, okay, I identified the solution. But if you want to do the continuous identity authentication, you need to continuously basically, revalidate the solution, disconnect, connect again, and it's going to cause you a lot of trouble because it's going to create you a lot of, the friction in your operation. So in our system, we have the separate layer which basically continuously validate the device. If the device is not validated, then it's going to basically disconnect the device from the network. From the visibility point of view, it's basically provide you the discovery across IT and OT environment. It's the agent based currently in the market. What we provide the agentless, where you can basically discover the device and we can basically enroll those devices with our network. As I mentioned, for the policies, it's basically the firewall policies that you can manage right now based on the solution that you have in the market. It's not going to provide you the device level, user level, application level, policy management and enforcement that you can do throughout the infrastructure. For the access, it's in the market, as you can see that there are a lot of VPNs, a lot of the privilege-based access solution, but none of them provide or combine it with the zero trust access. That's mean that they don't provide you to validate every single device and the user in those particular devices. Every device have like a lot of users, so you might have the device authentication, but the user authentication is also very important for you to have. So threat detection is something that's out of the market. You will see a lot of signatures, same solution, but what we provide based on the AI correlation across the telemetry that we collect, it's a very unique, it's a very very in the sense very powerful solution to help you to identify what are the different threats coming into your network. Automations, as I mentioned, based on the scoring, based on the decisions, based on the vulnerability that we detect, you can have the autonomous rules, workflows implemented where you can basically have the device quarantine or device re-entered into the network once it's been authenticated or monitored or managed by your analyst. Yeah, for the AI part, it's a AI native orchestration solution where basically everything is connected, all the data is connected, and you have basically kind of like a chat bot where you can go and ask your questions about your network. You can ask how many devices, how many policies, what are the vulnerabilities. If you find over the internet any vulnerability, you can go and ask the GPT of our QuantLayer, which basically can tell you that whether these vulnerabilities exist in our network or not, because we have connected all of our data into the single source where basically you can get all the answers that you're looking for. If you want to create some reports, you can get those daily reports out of the chatbot as well. For the remote access, currently we support only terminal-based remote access, where you can have the consoles of the device, or you can push any command to multiple devices. You can select the number of devices and you can console those devices. You can push the updates. You can push the different solution to those devices or policies. So you can manage all of that through our console. As I mentioned, compliance varies based on the customer's needs, based on the customer industry. So we provide something out of the box, but it can be fully customized based on your requirement, which means that we can incorporate all those controls, and those controls will be autonomously monitored and managed. You don't need to run to the developers or your infrastructure team to basically get the proofs for that. We provide you all of that based on the information that we collect. So as I mentioned, it's a very comprehensive solution. It's a well thought solution built for the tomorrow, built for the today AI infrastructure. And this is going to basically help you to understand overall security posture. Either it's related to identity, either it's related to policies, threat detections, or if you want to have some automations, it's all incorporated into one solution, which is going to give you a very, very comprehensive understanding of your infrastructure. All right. So far I've been talking about what QuantLayer is built for, what it does, and now it's time for me to basically show you, like, give you the overall walkthrough of the platform. All right, so I'm not going to enroll the device today. I are going to give you like full enrollment and all of that experience. I have already enrolled a couple of devices in our test environment. And what I'm going to walk you through is basically going to talk about the values that we discussed in our previous conversation. So I'm going to talk about, like, what is this device? What is the immutable identity? What is this? So this is basically the map of the immutable identity is based on the Merkle tree. That's mean that whenever we create any device on our network, what it does, it basically create the link of that device with the previous block that we have in our network. So what does it mean? It means that every device that we have in our network, it has been verified with the entire chain. That's mean that there's not going to be any device in our network. For example, if this device is verified, that's mean that all the previous devices has already been verified. So if you verified only one device, then it's going to be authenticate all the device, or it has the mechanism to validate the overall infrastructure integrity. And you can use this feature to verify anytime that you want. When I was talking about the continue validation, that is something that you can validate and ensure that your device or your network is in continue validation. This is kind of like a very different approach, and we have our patent on it. So you can look into our patent to learn more about what we covers in our solution, and why it's basically help us to create the trusted network of devices, where every device on the network has the link to the previous identity, and ensure that this entire chain is basically the group of trusted devices. So this is one of the base layer that I was talking about when I was talking about the identity in the current market solution are not link with their with their entire infrastructure. Mostly identity solution provider are separate, and the rest of this stack has been driven by the other vendors. So that's why we wanted to make sure that in our solution, the identity is the core of this entire network. So for example, this device has been connected, is giving us all the information from the device, that when this device was last authenticated, last active, active since how long. Currently, this device is not part of any micro segmentation, but you can create the different zones here, and you can link that device into that particular zone, and then you will be able to see that which zone this device belongs to. It gives you the IP address, firmware details. It gives you the OS, what is the RAM, entire CPU details, unique identity, host name, all of that details you can get basically from that. And when you click on this device to find out the more detail, you can go into this section, and what this section is going to give you, because this is the server, so it's not showing you the battery, but I will show you that on other device. But it's going to give you the full understanding of, like, what is this device, what are the architecture of the device, is it the AMD or is something else, x86, or what is the CPU, operating system. So this is basically device analytics summary, like what is the device health, what is the different alert level on that device, what is the inventory coverage. So all of this we have covered in our documentation. So I will encourage you to go over website and read about it, because it's a very comprehensive approach, and it will take a lot of time for me to explain at this point. So this is, for example, is going to show you like what is the CPU monitoring usage, what are the different packages, ports. It's going to give you like application visibility, device location, CPU, all of these analytics. These are the different active processes that you have on that device. You can go and select any process, and you can kill the process if you think that that's something that's consuming a lot of space and a lot of CPU usage. You can close it, and you can restart it. You can console the device and restart from there as well. So if you go to the apps, it's going to tell you that all the apps on the device, what are the user apps, what are the system apps that's running on that particular device. And if you go to the network, it's going to give you all the network detail, Wi-Fi details, area details, Bluetooth, all of that details you're going to get from this. And when you go to the device events, is going to give you the AI summary of that events, what is happening on your device, what are the different analytics, how many total events that you're seeing, what are the critical events. So all of this is basically, separately monitor to make you, aware that what's happening on your device. And if I go to the alerts, you can create the customized alerts, and some of the alerts based on the criticality. Those comes out of the box to monitor, to help you maintain your policy validations. So if there is any policy violations or something like that, the alert can be created, and you can monitor like how many different type of alerts are active or have been resolved. All of that details you can get. So this is our anomaly. So this is basically something that's going to tell you that top anomaly types that we have in our network is the network traffic spike, CPU usage, process creation, and there, for example, has been like ton of process created at the same time. So those kind of the different vulnerabilities you can monitor through our AI model. So this is the users. So these are the users, system users. So we have the 5 device users, 10 system users. So these are like, for example, system users that we see here, and we see here the device users. So total 10 users that we see. And if we go to the device sessions is basically whenever the device is restart or re-log in, we monitor the every session of that device. I will show you this in a little bit depth on the different device, which is a laptop. So this device is, if you go to this device, is going to show you the multiple different session on that device, which means that whenever you do the re-login, is basically going to tell you that how long the activity has been and what's happening on that activity. So here we have the some of the activities shown here. So here you get all the activities related to the certain files that have been modified. You can create the different policies to monitor your sessions. So as I mentioned, this is the overall device inventory model where you can enroll the devices with the network. And in this map, you're going to see that, what is the DAG of that device, or what is the overall, the Merkle tree of that device. And these are our dashboards. So this is basically built considering the what are the CISO KPIs, what he want to see in our dashboard. And we can customize this dashboard based on the different roles in your company. It's going to tell you like what are the detection confidence, all of that, what are the different compliance requirement framework requirement or policies that we have been monitoring in our system. So it's going to give you the full overall understanding. This is your SOC in the sense that it's a smart SOC is create the incidents based on the policies that you have implemented. Based on that, whenever any policy kind of like being violated, is going to create the incident, and you can monitor here what's happening with your incident. So this is, for example, like we have the certain policies created. So anomaly behavior, for example, in the anomaly behavior, you can have your OT infrastructure monitoring on that. And if you go to block path, you can block certain path, for example, certain application, and you can see that if anybody kind of like violate that, is going to create the ticket, and your analyst is going to see all of that ticket in the SOC so that he can monitor and manage that risk. In terms of the users, you can implement the 2FA to the users. You can select which device you want to implement the 2FA. You can select the device. You can create the user from here. You can assign the different user roles, and then after that, you can basically enforce the MFA as well on those devices. Create the roles. You can create the roles here. So you can have like multiple different roles in your organization. You can create the multiple different roles, and you can create the policies to assign those particular roles. These Quant AI agents is something that where you can basically monitor the AI agent policies. You can enroll your users and devices, and based on that is going to run an AI agent to monitor the policies on your devices. This is the NIST monitoring. That's mean that it's monitor the authentication policy, OT, and agent events. So it's going to give you the entire log of it, like what's happening on that related to the NIST monitoring framework. And these are the basically the different device heartbeats that you're seeing, like what's happening on that particular devices. So this is I know it's a lot of information for the first webinar, but I just wanted to walk you through, and in upcoming webinars we are going to break that down. For example, this secure boot, you can go and select the device, whichever device you want to implement the secure boot, and you can basically enable the secure boot. This is basically going to enable that device to log in every time in the secure mode. So that's one of the key feature that's required for a lot of remote IoT devices to make sure that those devices are always log in secure mode, even on the network devices as well. This is overall the network, like what happened on the network. We will organize another session for that as well. So how you can implement the discovery of the devices over the network, and once the device are discovered, how you can basically enroll those devices autonomously without spending so much time on the configuration. And when you enroll those devices, what are the different aspects that you can monitor in those particular devices? So this is something that we will come back to as well. Compliance reporting is something that's basically, as I mentioned, you can create the report, you can enable the different compliance requirement, and based on the compliance requirement, there are particular controls that we have already incorporated in our system. So against those controls, we provide you all the information from the network. So you don't need to basically run the different scripts to get that information. We will provide you that out of the box. QuantAI, as I mentioned, you can run the daily reports. You can run the different compliance requirement. You can ask the different question, and you can prompt that, and it's going to respond to you about that. So, for example, when I run this a daily risks report, it has created this report for us, and we can go and look into like what are the different aspect of that report. You can also ask like how many devices we have, and what is the status of that devices, and all of that kind of the questions. And knowledge base is something that's help us to train our AI model. So if you have already some of the documentation related to your overall architecture, related to your infrastructure, related to your naming conventions and all of that, you can go here and upload that document, and basically our AI model will get trained on it and is going to provide you the response related to that particular information that you have provided. These are like the platform management tools where you can basically report any bug or manage portal access. You can create the different user, different groups, different assign different roles, and you can manage all of that in our platform. So as I mentioned, yeah, it's a very comprehensive platform built for the companies who want to really transform their infrastructure, and they want to understand like what is happening in their infrastructure, rather than having a silos approach where you have the multiple solution onto multiple with the multiple vendors, managing those vendors, managing the risk with them. It's also at a huge amount of cost, and the storage requirements for you. And the worst thing is you cannot fully implement your AI journey on it. So this is something that we have built for customers who really want to, advance their infrastructure, and have a sense of kind of like confidence on their environment, to understand that what's the overall security posture for their organization. So at the end, I really appreciate for your time. I have been recording this session, so I will be sharing this recording with all of you, and I will be posting in this on our YouTube and LinkedIn channel as well. So please go and look into this, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I will be happy to answer your questions. You can reply or ask the question at info@bdata.ca, and we look forward to working with you and giving you, very customized or precise demo based on your requirements. So feel free to reach out to us. Go to our website, sign up the contact us form, and we will be there to present ourselves. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. And I look forward to continue talking to you guys. Thank you very much. And at the last, we will be continuing this series. We will be targeting, specific use cases. So if you have any specific use case in your mind which you think that we should be targeting, please let us know, and we will be jumping on that and we'll making our videos about those particular feature. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.